night, and it was one of those when you wake up the next morning, and I came home, I was too tired to shower, so I didn't. And then I woke up the next morning, my hair looked nuts, so I was like, I don't have time to shower because I didn't shower yesterday, so I'm just gonna put it in braids. So then I went to bed. Last night, I came home, and I'm like, I'm too tired to shower again, so I'm just not going to. I'll wake up early, and my alarm went off at 6. My husband goes, what time's your alarm set? I'm like, it's set for 6. I'm going to get up. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to get ready. He goes, that sounds great. My alarm's set for 8 a.m. Do not wake me up. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So 6:15 rolls around. Well, 6 rolls around, my alarm goes off. Then I hit snooze. 6:15, snooze. I kept snoozing. Got up finally at 6:30. I'm like, okay, I still have time. So I walk into the bathroom, and I was like, I'm not doing it. It's not happening. So I was, 3 days without a shower. No, I'm just kidding. I was like, okay, I'm just going to wash my body. I have at least some, I don't want to smell too bad. So I wash my body, and I'm like, I'm just going to go with this, hi, Hailey Bieber type ponytail. It's going to be great. And then, I walk outside, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, this is rough, but we're going with it. And so I, have my hair done. I go into my room, and I changed my outfit. I kid you not, 5 times. And I kept thinking, I'm like, man, all these women on stage look so beautiful last night. I was looking at Bevan's white shirt, and then I'm Googling, I wonder where she got that white shirt. I'm trying to where'd this white shirt come from, right? It was the most beautiful white shirt. And then I couldn't find it, and then I just got distracted, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna wear, and I'm putting on pants that don't button, and then I'm putting on pants that are too big, and then I'm putting on, it was a disaster. I wish I would have taken a picture of my room to show you guys. I'm not kidding. Finally, I put on a blazer, a different one, not this one, and I was like, hey, Jake, how do you think this looks? He's like, good. I'm like, I don't know. So I take it off, throw my jean jacket on. I was like, how does this look? He's like, it looks fine. I'm like, well, I don't know. Let me try it. So I tried it on a different one. I was like, how does this look? He's like, I think you should just go with the denim. I was like, I'm going to go with the green blazer. So and so I threw that on, and then I'm like, boots or shoes or blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna be comfortable. It works. Then I thought about it. I was like, what a ridiculous thing. I should have sent out invites to everybody and said, hey, listen, everybody show up in comfy pants and a t-shirt with no bra, and we will have the best time ever, right? Who wants to dress up at 10 o'clock in the morning? I don't. It's a women's conference. Goodness, evenings are fine, but 10 a.m., I'm like, why? If I could have just brought a comfy couch, some sweatpants, a baggy shirt, threw my hair in a wonderful, messy bun. I got pulled over the other day, and someone's like, I knew it was you because I saw your hair in a bun. I was like, what does that say about me? You don't know it's me because it's my car. You know it's me because of my hair. But yeah, man, just the comfortability of just sitting on a couch and hanging out with your girlfriends, drinking coffee, and I love that idea. So I thought, I'm just going to pretend like we're in my living room hanging out. And that's what we're going to do. It was funny when I sat down with my husband. I was like, listen, I know how, Pastor Rick gets up here, and he's like, point number 1, and then da-da-da-da. And he's like, now if you go to point number 2, da-da-da-da. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Jake's like, so you don't have any points? I'm like, well, I kind of have points, but it's going to flow. It'll be fine. So just know we're going to just roll with it, okay? It's going to be great. Also, when I decided to put on the comfy clothes and I walked out, I noticed that the weather was beautiful. There was a few things I knew, man, God loves me this morning. Have you ever just woke up and you're like, man, I am so fortunate. I'm so loved. When I walked outside, it was 48 degrees, and I knew, God, you love me. And then I'm walking around the church, running around, and my sister-in-law walks up to me, and she hands me this delicious strawberry shortcake that I have been dreaming about for months from the beautiful Donica Bendabout. Can we give her a hand? And I was like, oh my God, you just love me so much. And then I had another friend walk in, and she got me the large coffee at Dutch Bros. Have you seen that thing? That's probably why I'm running around the stage, because I'm like, you love me. You got me the large. She's like, yeah, well, I texted you and asked if you wanted medium, and you didn't text me back, so I just went with the large. I was like, well, now I know to never text you back. I'm like, well, you didn't text me back. Here's the small. No, I'm just kidding. She's the kind of friend you want in your corner. But it is a great Saturday, and I'm so excited to close our session with you. I want to show you guys a quick picture. My name's Ashleigh. I am the children's pastor here. What you're going to hear today is a little bit of my heart. I minister to your kids. There's portions of my story that your kids won't hear, so please keep that in mind as I share with you. I love teaching kids about Jesus, man. It is such an honor, but my biggest honor and blessing are these 4 guys right here. And they're my world, and I never thought that I would get married at 18 and then have 4 kids. But here we are. I have Eli. He'll be 10 next week. And then we have June. She just turned 8. She's with the smiley face. We have Ellie, who is 5, and then James, who is 4. This picture, I'm pretty sure Jake said something inappropriate. They laughed about it. So, of course, I snapped a picture. I have no other picture like this in my phone. They do not ever look like they like each other this much. So don't be fooled by that, but I just want to let you guys know, if you have kids in Kids Life with me, I love your kids so much. I love my kids so much, and I know what a gift it is and what a treasure it is to be able to minister to them. And man, I am so blessed that I get to do it. So I just want to show you guys a picture of my babies. You'll see a picture of my handsome hubby later, but he was on stage up in the front. He's pretty handsome, right? You can just say yes. I'll allow it today. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. So I was going to talk to you guys today about a story that I'm sure you're familiar with. And when I was doing my, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about, I don't want to say I struggled, but I was like, I feel like everybody knows this story. I've heard it a lot. And then the Lord just kept on telling me, this is what I want you to do. And as I read the story, I realized that I relate so much to this woman. So if you have your Bibles, would you please pull it out and turn it to John chapter 4? John's in the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Also, my allergies have been horrible. So that's been fun. I told the guys in the back, I'm going to be sniffling. So I wish I had a button where I could, click, so they knew to turn my mic down every single time I was going to, but. So this is the story of the woman at the well. So he left Judea and returned to Galilee. He, referring to Jesus, he had to go through Samaria on the way. Eventually, he came to the Samaritan village near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired from the long walk, sat wearily beside the well about noontime. Soon, a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Please give me a drink." He was alone at the time because his disciples had gone into the village to buy some food. The woman was surprised, for Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans. She said to Jesus, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink?" Jesus replied, "If you only knew the gift God has for you and who you're speaking to, you would ask me, and I would give you living water." "But sir, you don't have a rope or a bucket," she said, "and this well is very deep. Where would you get this living water? And besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well? How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed?" Jesus replied, "Anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. So anyone who drinks this water from the well will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water that I give them will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life. Please, sir," the woman said, "give me this water. Then I'll never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water." So in this moment, I want you guys to see this, that the woman has still not registered, that the water Jesus is offering her, it isn't actually water from the well, right? That's not the water that he's offering her. And then he goes on to say, "Go and get your husband," Jesus told her. You see, it's not a coincidence that after she asks for the water from the Lord, After she asks for the water that he offers her, that he asks her to go and get her husband. Because up to this point, the thing that she had been using to quench her thirst had been relationships. Go and get you're thirsty? You want my living water? Go and get your husband. How many of you guys, or maybe you personally, know a woman that says, if I just had a man that loves me, if I just had a man that loves me. Then after we have that, we find out that that man's not perfect, and neither are we, right? That they have flaws, that we have flaws, and that ache is still there. You're thirsty. You're desperate. He says, go and get your husband. If you want my living water, I need you to recognize, where have you been getting your thirst quenched? Where have you been getting it filled? I want to tell you guys a story. In high school, junior high and high school was I'm almost 30, and so going back to this season is kind of ridiculous, but I'm going to anyways, because it was literally the start of one of the hardest things I've had to struggle with, even to this day. I had a really hard time having friendships in junior high and high school, and I mean, TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram, that wasn't a thing then. And so I can't imagine what these junior high and high schoolers are going through now. Because what I went through was hard. It was really hard to find good, godly friendships, good, godly relationships, and not just that, but I just have a strong personality, and so finding friends wasn't the easiest thing in the world. And I remember as I dated a guy for a couple years, and because I realized, well, I don't have the friendships that I need. I'm bringing people to church with me on Wednesdays, but they don't really hang out, and then they leave, and I'm trying to live my life good, but I'm so lonely, so I dated this guy, dated him for a couple years, and then things happened in that, and we broke up because I was 16 or 17, which doesn't say much because I got married at 18, so then a year later I met about 6 to 8 months later, I met my husband. But after I had this relationship, boyfriend, no friends, just boyfriend, then I entered this season of having a few friends, but that meant compromising who I was, right? Just a little bit, because, man, I just really needed that. I really needed that to fuel my cup up. But then I met my husband, and I fell in love, and we got married, and that was great. But once again, I never was able to keep or maintain friends, and I just longed for it so much. And I tried to find friends, and there was just this desperation because just this cloud of loneliness hovered over my life, even though I was married. And so with this cloud of loneliness that hovered over my life, then I had my 4 kids, and with each kid, it was I was pregnant, had a baby, a year before their first birthday, I'm pregnant again, and then, and then 4 kids later, and still nothing. And when I was 25, I had a friend come into my life, and it was life-changing for me. Because I want you guys to recognize that I went through this portion of trying to get my heart to be healed by friendships that were just not really real, true, authentic, good friendships. Then I was finally like, you know what? Forget it. I don't need anybody. And then that made the loneliness even worse. Then I had a friend come into my life, and I'm telling you, I want to encourage you guys, this is kind of a little bit off track, but if you're lonely, you don't have to stay there. If you struggle with having a good friend, then you go out and find somebody to be a good friend to. And I remember sitting in my living room with a new baby, and my friend showed up, or at this time, she wasn't even my friend, I just attended church with her. She knocked on my door, and she brought me a coffee, and she just said, hey, I'm here if you need me. And it did something in my heart. And then it was like the floodgates of friendships just came into my lap. And she lives in North Carolina now, but when she left, it was like, oh, but God, he knew the need. He knew what the desire of having friendships was. And I have so many friends in this room. It is insane. Specifically, this front row over here, like, it's insane to me. And I'm so fortunate, but I want to tell you guys something, that even these friendships can't quench my thirst the way Jesus does. There's absolutely nothing that can quench our thirst the way that Jesus does. How many of you guys have ever been to the beach before? Yeah? So we go almost every year whenever we have the money. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't, and then sometimes we don't, but we go anyways, and then we realize that we don't have any money when we get there. Guilty. Don't act like you haven't been there. I hope I'm not the only one. So when I go to the beach and I am like sprawled out, I have just this idea of how beautiful this vacation is going to be, and it's never that way because bringing kids to the beach is like literally the worst thing you can do ever. I don't care what anybody tells. I mean, we try, but there is no relaxing, right? It's like, please don't drown, please don't drown, please don't get burnt. Oh my gosh, I just brought you down here. You already want to go up, and it's just, here's your snacks. Oh, there's sand in it. Just like brush it off. Here you go. But I never have gone to the beach and looked at the ocean and thought, I'm so thirsty. That water, that ocean water, it looks so good. Why? Because when I go down to the beach, I don't have the need for it. There's not a need for me to go and drink this water when I'm hanging out at the beach with my family. But it's different, right? Whenever somebody gets shipwrecked, their boat crashes, they're in the middle of the ocean, eventually they get thirsty. And that water that at that time on the beach with your family doesn't look good, when you're in a desperate season, when you're in a desperate time, you're going to find something to fill your thirst as quick as possible. Not recognizing the damage that it'll actually do. Because when we're thirsty, if we don't turn to God, what are we going to turn to? Thinking, this time, I will finally be satisfied. And you might be for a moment. And then you find yourself still at the very end, desperate and thirsty. Because the only person that can leave you satisfied is Jesus. When we get desperate, when we get thirsty, that's when we start to crave the things that aren't good for us. What do you turn to when times get tough? When things in your life begin to feel desperate? Jesus was telling the woman, you're thirsty because you've been trying to fill your cup up and quench your soul with the wrong things. But what led the woman here? To have 5 failed marriages. I can imagine at one point each of these relationships, they were in its purest form. They started out beautiful, right? When I met my husband at 18, it was like, oh my gosh, he was kind of like a rock star in Sand Springs, like popular. And he had like YouTube videos on, and now I look those up and kind of make fun of him. But then I was like, oh my gosh, look at this guy, like he's so amazing. And so I remember like when I saw Jake and I fell in love with him, I went to my friend Shelby and I was like, Shelby, I'm gonna marry this guy. I'm 18 years old. She's like, okay. And I'm like, can you listen to him? Look at him. Look how amazing he is. He is just hot. And oh my gosh. And I just remember that moment when I met Jake, there's something about the newness of a relationship that you want everybody to know about it. Something special about this newness. There's this pure thing that happens. When you first get married, there's this pure love. You talk about your dreams and desires and what your future is going to look like. And oh my goodness, it's great. It's going to be so good. And it's an excitement, and you want to tell everybody about it. And then you find out we find out that our husbands aren't perfect, and we are. No, I'm just kidding. But we find out that they can't always give us unending love. And they can't always fill our cup up with hope. And they can't always fill our cup up with excitement. That eventually things set in, life happens. And just like the woman at the well, she recognized with each marriage that those men weren't going to fill her up eternally. They weren't going to always fill her up with everlasting love and everlasting hope and confidence in Jesus. And so she recognizes that, man, if I can just find somebody that will love me. But there's only one person who can satisfy our thirst. I have permission from my husband to tell this story. In 2021, if you guys followed along if you have me on social media, starting in January of 2021, I was like, I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to lose all this weight. It's going to be great. And so I'm like, and nothing is going to get in the way. I am putting myself first, which we should. We should put ourselves, we should take care of ourselves. But I was like, I am putting myself first, and there's absolutely nothing you can say or do. I'm doing it. So every day, I went to the gym every day for 84 days straight. And after that, I got my personal training license, and I started working at a gym, and I lost 30 pounds, and I was just like, I felt so physically, I was like, I've made it. Oh, but my soul, it was wrecked. Because when I was in this atmosphere that was, I'm going to come here first. I'm going to put this thing first. Maybe if I'm finally skinny, if I'm finally in a place where I feel healthy, I will be satisfied. But with that, trying to fill up my soul with fitness, I started hating being at home. I hated it. I was like, I'm going to go to the gym. He's like, you already went today. I know. I'm going again. See you later. I remember at one point he sat down with me. He's like, Ash, you're never home. I'm like, they're your kids too. Deal with it. That's how I felt. And I started convincing myself that Jake was holding me back from being the woman that I want to be. Don't you know that this is what I'm called to do? How dare you try to step in the way? And then I was just convinced that at that point, he's my enemy. If you're not for me, you are against me. Okay? But he was for me. He knew. I got phone calls on a regular basis from other people in my life. And one time I was in Target and I got a phone call, and they said, the person that was on the line is very, very close with me. And they said, you're not okay, and I really think that you're under a spiritual attack. And I was like, I'm fine. And I was convincing them, my marriage is fine. Jake and I have our issues. We've been married almost 10 years. We're fine. But what you guys don't know, or what you don't see, is that I would go to the gym, work out, hang out with people that tried to make me feel like I was just Ashleigh, I'm not a mom, I'm not a wife, I'm not, at that point I wasn't in ministry, nor did I want to be. I was like, I am done with that. I don't need this. God, you're just holding me back, God. I've been waiting 4 years for you to tell me what's next, and you haven't done it. I'm sick of waiting. Disappointment, hurt. I shut the door on anything that could have any potential that had anything to do with the church or Jesus or my calling. I was changing what my calling actually was, convincing myself, well, if I go here, I'm just going to be disappointed anyway, so. And I remember at one point, I would go to the gym, I would come home, help Jake with dinner, put a face on, put the kids to bed. I would get in our inflatable hot tub, which is super awesome if you don't have one of those. They're awesome. Get a big one, though, because otherwise your legs are like this next to this little. If it's just your husband, I guess it's fine. And I would drink every night. And it was great. Because I knew, I'm like, for me in that moment, I wanted to numb being home. I didn't want to be home. Home was a reminder of pain is what I felt. A house that I rent, a job that I don't have, finances that are in ruins. So I would go to the gym to try to quench my heart, quench my thirst. Then I would come home and drink a glass of wine and unwind and not want to talk to my husband to try to just make it through. And then I'd wake up the next day, and you know how I would feel? Empty. I'd feel empty. Because there's only one thing in our life that can satisfy us. Later on that summer, I laid in bed, and this was after I got the phone call. I was walking around Target, and they told me that, and convinced them that everything is fine. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was a demonic it's real. I'm telling you what Bevan said yesterday. It is real, okay? And they come to steal, kill. It comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and it will ruin your life if you let it. And I was laying in bed, and I had phone calls from friends. I had warnings from people. What are you doing? Are you okay? People sat down at lunch with me. I'm fine. They knew I wasn't. I'm fine. I'm good. My husband, God bless him, he stuck around. I wouldn't have, because I know. Do you guys know where to kick your husband where it hurts? Yeah, with your words. I'm not proud of that at all. But I remember I laid in bed and I woke up one night and I had this presence on me. My eyes were open. My hands were bound and my mouth was shut. And I'm trying to reach for my husband and I couldn't. I'm trying to say his name and I can't because I'm trying to wake him up because I'm scared. I'm like, Jake, and I couldn't move my hands, couldn't open my mouth. And then I was reminded, this is what my life would look like if I left him. What would I do? I started saying in my head, God, I'm so sorry. Gone. That next week, Jake and I went to the beach, and a 14-hour trip with your husband that you don't even like at the time is great. I was like, gosh, this is terrible. At least I'll look good in a swimsuit. No, I'm just kidding. So I had to lighten the mood just a little bit. And I sat down with him, and I just shared everything with him. And I told him, look, this is what I'm struggling with. I've tried filling my heart up with other relationships, other callings, other things. And I'm so sorry. But God is good. And then that December, I have this picture. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary. But we almost didn't make it there. God, Lori, you rub off on people. What is happening here? But bigger than this, God restored my marriage. He did. Because I've recognized that I was filling my cup up with the wrong things. And that things I was filling my cup up with, it convinced me that my life would be better if I didn't have a husband, or if I could split custody of kids, because I wouldn't have them all the time. It's terrible. And then I convinced myself that, God, I know you told me when I was 12 that I was going to do children's ministry, but I've been waiting, and you haven't revealed anything to me, and it's been 4 years, and I'm so angry. And so I said, never again, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. But God is good. And when I started changing my heart and recognizing that, man, Lord, this is a process. This thing, it doesn't fill up overnight. It's a process. But it's not empty anymore. And when I recognized that He's good and His callings on our life, they don't change. And if I just go back to this season of love in the purest form with Jesus, if I go back to this season of 12-year-old Ashleigh who discovered who Jesus actually was and who He called me to be, who He's called you to be, if we recognize that, if we go back to that first season of where you knew Jesus, where you met Him, He's there with us, and He'll reveal to you and remind you who He's called you to be. And because of that, because of His faithfulness, I have this other picture. But what you guys see here are kids, and God told, it was when I started just quenching my thirst with the correct things, God showed up, and He reminded me of His promise. And I'm telling you, a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle this. My heart was just not good. He needed one more year of growth for me. He needed me. I was at rock bottom. When Lori said that you look like a phoenix that's going to just rise up, I'm telling you guys, I was not just on the ground. I had dirt piled all over me. I was so empty. This was a reminder to me. But what you also see in this picture, you see kids, but behind here, there's adults here. There's friendships here. There's people here who not only love these kids, they have my back. I don't have to carry this alone, and neither do you. That God, He fills us up, and when He fills us up, He also puts people in our place to help us stay filled. He doesn't want you empty. He doesn't want you looking for hope and love and confidence and excitement and things in other places. So He surrounds you. He makes sure, I'm going to take care of you. You're going to have to do it yourself, but I'm going to keep people in your corner that are also going to make sure that you're good, because He's a good God. We're going to keep going, and I feel like I'm running out of time. I don't know. Am I running out of time? Okay. Gosh. Ugh. Now my nose is really going. Verse 17. I don't have a husband, the woman replied. Jesus said, you're right. You don't have a husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. You certainly spoke the truth. Sir, the woman said, you must be a prophet. So tell me, why is it that you Jews... Am I doing something? Thank you, Sarah. I was going to ask, but I felt awkward being like, can somebody get this woman some Kleenex? What a good friend. See? He fills you up with tissues sometimes, too. Sir, the woman said, you must be a prophet, so tell me, why is it that you Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place of worship, while we Samaritans claim it is here, for where our ancestors worship? Jesus replied, believe me, dear woman, the time is coming when it will no longer matter whether you worship the Father on this mountain or in Jerusalem. You Samaritans know very little about the one you worship, while we Jews know all about him. For salvation comes through the Jews, but the time is coming, indeed, it is here now. when true worshipers will worship the Father in the Spirit and the truth. Sorry, Marvin, I'm going really fast. The Father is looking for those who will worship him that way. For God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth. The woman said, I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called Christ. When he comes, he will explain everything to me. Then Jesus told her, I am the Messiah. See, the Lord is good. The woman at the well went decades trying to satisfy her heart with something other than Jesus. And he still showed up for her. And he asked her to identify what's been leaving her empty. Today he wants to ask you guys the same question. What's been leaving you empty? In John chapter 4, verse 6, when we go back, it says, Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired from the long walk, sat beside the well about noontime. He sat with her. He sat with her as she had a recognition of how she had been living her life up to this point. He wants to sit with you guys too. He wants to be in arm's reach as you identify what's been leaving you wanting more. Because he knows when you identify what's been leaving you empty, it's going to be painful, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be like a 14-hour car ride to Florida with your husband as you tell him that you were done. But he wants to sit with you because he doesn't want you to navigate through that alone. He sits with you. You see, this isn't water that we can receive from anything else. This isn't water that you can go and get from across the room. There's no longer a searching or a wandering or a striving to hydrate your heart. This is water that's within arm's reach. This water needs to be in your hand. When was the last time you guys intentionally sat next to Jesus to receive his living water that he's been offering to you for a long time? He wants to sit with you. It's point number one. Which like I said, I don't really have points, so it's like right after that's point number two, so it's going to be fast. He wants to sit with you. And I wrote this down while Sarah was talking. I was like, hey, Amy, give me a pen. And she looks at me because she's such a good friend, and she's like, I think you're overthinking it. She goes, I wouldn't add any more stuff. I'm like, I know. She saw my notes. I'm scribbling everywhere. But whenever he went to have the Last Supper with his disciples, he tells them, I've been looking forward to this moment. Oh. He's been looking forward to this moment with you guys. He's been looking forward to sitting next to you finally. As you stop looking to fill yourself up with something other than him, he says, finally, I've been sitting here waiting. I've been looking forward to this moment. We're going to go into a different scripture really fast. And it's in the Psalms, Psalm 63. And what we see here is David, and he's actually hiding from his son, which, what a betrayal, right? Your son is actually he wants to kill you so he can take your place. And so David is hiding. We see David hiding a few times in the Bible. One is from King Saul, but this is a whole different season. Now he's hiding from his son Absalom. And he says, "Oh God, you are my God. I earnestly search for you. My soul thirsts for you. My whole body longs for you in this parched and weary land where there is no water. I have seen you in your sanctuary and gazed upon your power and glory. Your unfailing love is better than life itself. How I praise you. I will praise you as long as I live, lifting up my hands to you in prayer. You satisfy me more than the richest feast. I will praise you with songs of joy. I lie awake thinking of you, meditating on you through the night, because you are my helper. I sing for joy in the shadow of your wings. I cling to you. Your strong right hand holds me securely. Now, I want you guys to recognize here is David was hiding, but you know where he went to hide? He went to hide in the hills of Judah. The hills of Judah is where David actually it's where he grew up. It was familiar to him. I imagine while he tended to sheep, he had a lot of conversations with God. I imagine while he tended to sheep, there was a lot of revealing to David about his future. And when he felt afraid or lonely or empty, you know where he went to? Back to the beginning of his purest form, the purest relationship with Jesus. He went back to familiarity. David, in this moment, he felt separated from God. But David takes these feelings of separation and discomfort, and he turns them into a yearning for God. You see, there's not going to be times where we're in the wild and we don't feel abandoned by God. And we don't feel, or where there'll be times where we feel discomfort, where we feel alone, where we feel empty. And for the longest time, this woman at the well was finding comfort and quenching her thirst with relationships. But what we see David doing is turning his discomfort into a yearning for God. You know what yearning means? I love this. It's an intense feeling or longing for something, typically something that someone has lost or been separated from. He wants us to yearn for him. He desires to be in the wilderness with us. He wants us to go back to the place where he called us. I'm sure you guys, I want you guys to just close your eyes for just a quick second. And I want you guys to go back to the very moment where you felt like God put something on your heart, where he either revealed to you. I'm sure we all have a small moment where he revealed something to us about our identity, the identity that he's given us, not the identity we've given ourselves, the identity he's given us. I just want you guys to think about that for a second, because when I thought about that a year ago, I forgot and did not care about the identity he gave me at 12 years old. But when I stepped out of trying to fill my cup up with something that left me thirsty, I was reminded of what my heart looked like when Jesus was first. What my heart and soul looked like when he was first. You guys can open your eyes, and I'm actually going to have the worship team come up here. I think if they're ready. Oh, see, sorry, my bad. I'm going to have them start working their way up here. And while they're doing that, if you guys wouldn't mind turning your Bibles back to John 4. Because whenever we hear this story of the woman at the well and Jesus says, I'm the Messiah, typically, okay, we shut the Bible, like, that's great, he's the Messiah. But what happens if we move forward a little bit? In verse 27, it says, just then his disciples came back. They were shocked to find him talking to a woman, but none of them had the nerve to ask, what do you want with her? Or why are you talking to her? The woman left her jar beside the well and ran back to the village, telling everyone, come and see the man who told me everything I did. I'll let you guys take this table. I just got to take my notes so I don't, Thanks, Haley. Beautiful woman. You see, it was a literal water jug that she took up to the well to get water. But after she talked to Jesus, we see him referencing the water as it's something that I can give you that's eternal. What we see next is she's leaving that water jug at the well to go tell everybody the things that Jesus is doing for her and will do for them. Tonight, this morning, today, I want to invite you guys up here. And I want you guys to think about what water jar that's empty that you need to leave here today, that you need to leave behind. What are the things that we think that are going to leave us satisfied? What are we going to do with those things? We're going to leave them behind today. What does that look like? If only I was skinnier, prettier. So you lose weight, try to get pretty, filled up for a second, and it's empty. If I had waited to have children, my life wouldn't be insane. Maybe one more glass of wine to cope with my life. I just want a man to love me. I just want friendships. Maybe you're clinging on to hope, but you're putting your hope in something that's not of the Lord. You forget that he's the person that's going to give you all the things you need. Not a positive pregnancy test, but Jesus. He hears you. He wants you guys to leave behind the things that have been keeping you empty, and he wants to fill and fuel your soul. I want to have you guys go ahead and stand up if you wouldn't mind. The worship team is going to play this song, and I know it's kind of uncomfortable. I love it. There's like this awkward thing that happens when people are like, hey, come on up here to the front. We're going to worship. And then some women are like, yeah, and they start doing this like half jump thing, or I want to raise my hands, but I want to keep them here because it's kind of like awkward. Not today. Not right now. Because in order for the Lord to fill us up, there has to be a surrender of the things that have not been filling us up. So today, we're going to come up here, and we're going to get on our knees, and we're going to extend our hands, and we're going to, first of all, I had to apologize to God. And questioning his motives and his plans. And there's this, God, I'm so sorry. I need you to restore my marriage. I need you to show up for me today. I need you to give me friendships. And if that's not today, Lord, I need you to just make my heart satisfied for where I am. If I'm in a lonely season, God, I need you to just make my heart satisfied for being in this lonely season. I need you to remind me that the story that I'm creating right now that you're giving me, it's going to be utilized to heal someone else later on. Vulnerability is ugly. It can be embarrassing. That shame is going to keep you from experiencing what happens when we surrender to what God has for us. So today, I want you guys to come to the altar, and I want you to get on your knees, and I want you to extend your arms, and I want you to tell God, God, I'm so sorry. If you've been using something else to fill up your cup, God, I'm so sorry. But I know that you're creating everlasting change in my heart. Use me. And I want you guys to get rid of any of that shame. So if you have there's no embarrassment here. I just told you guys a lot of my messy. I want to invite you guys up here today as the band plays. I want you to extend your arms. I want you to tell God how sorry you are for using other things to fill you up, and ask him to quench your soul. Fill it up so when you leave here today, you won't feel thirsty anymore. And when you do, you know the very thing that will fill your soul up. And it's Jesus.